What a final week of the NFL season we just had. I mean, just here on 97.3 ESPN FM, we had not one, not two, but three overtime games yesterday on our airwaves. I mean, I'm captivated watching the games yesterday. Let's be realistic. A lot of us probably need a little extra incentive to stay up for the Eagles game on Saturday night. I know for me, I purposely had to do some things like, throw a couple side bets on the game just to stay awake and interested. Because, I mean, anybody who thought they'd take something from that game last on a Saturday night, they were probably nuts. But what a wild NFL weekend. Eagles are going to play the Bucs. You can hear it right here on 97.3 ESPN this Sunday. We'll give you a first look at the game today coming up. Chris Franklin from NJ.com will join us coming up at 6:20. Plus, I'll give you my thoughts on the College Football National Championship game, which is tonight. 7 p.m. begins the coverage right here on 97.3 ESPN. Also, go to 97.3 ESPN.com right now or the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. 3 players to watch in tonight's game who the Eagles should target. All the details right there on the website and on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Because the Eagles have 3 first-round picks. And one of those picks might be on a guy or two you see in tonight's game. Tons of NFL draft talent all over the field. But before we get to any of that, and I'll give you my thoughts as well on the coaching carousel. The Eagles came out of the weekend with their number one goal. They didn't overtly say it. They didn't overtly try to, actually proceed like this. But for all intents and purposes, the Eagles came into week 18 just trying to get ready for next week. Saturday night's game was about avoiding any scenario where they would not be 100% for the NFL playoffs. Now, whether you agree or disagree with that strategy, that was their strategy. I understand they didn't play to win the game and all that stuff, but you at least got to respect the Eagles' commitment to their, as Nick Sirianni calls it, process. We play the Nick Sirianni day after press conference every day on the Sports Bash around 3:25, 3:30. And I heard Sirianni say the process multiple times. And I wasn't sure if I was listening to Sirianni or Sam Hinkie for a moment. But the point is that for everything that's happened this year, I think that 2 things are very obvious. Number one, if Sirianni is not a candidate, or at least a nominee for the coach of the year, then I have a lot of questions. And second of all, you got to give a lot of respect to this entire organization from bouncing back from last year's fiasco. There's a lot of prideful guys in that locker room, from Kelsey to Lane Johnson. You look on the defensive side of the ball, Brandon Graham was on the field most of the year, but he's been on the sidelines almost every single week with his teammates. The leaders have stepped up for this organization, and you got to give the players a lot of credit. But you got to give Sirianni credit too. Ever since the Eagles made the comment about Flowers, they won 7 out of their next 9 games. Remember Kelsey broke the huddle in the locker room, 1, 2, 3 Flowers. For all the people who made fun of Nick Sirianni, for all the people who tried to throw the organization under the bus, for all the people who wanted to take pictures of Howie Roseman and turn them into, dart fodder at their drinking parties, the reality is that this Eagles team is legitimate. And I am no way going to count them out on Sunday against the Bucs for 2 specific reasons. Number one, the Eagles have the number 1 run offense in the league. It's such a good run offense that their second string offensive line looked at the Cowboys starting defensive line and told them to eat dirt. That's what happened on Saturday night. The Cowboys can talk all they want about. We wanted to make sure we're in a groove. We wanted to make sure we were fresh. We wanted to get Dak Prescott the record. Well, you know what you're forgetting to talk about? The fact that Andre Dillard, Brett Toth, Jack Anderson, all the backups of this offensive line basically looked at starting NFL defensive linemen and just punched them in the face. This running attack of the Eagles is not a fugazi. It is not fraudulent. There are no charlatans trying to present you this information. This is real. And if I'm Tampa, I better tighten my gloves a little bit more on Sunday. I better make sure my chin straps are a little extra tight. I better make sure that my head is extra focused, because if Tampa wants to beat the Eagles the second time around, they have to stop the running game, because so far, guess what? No one has. No one. Name the team this year who has shut down the Eagles' running attack since Nick Sirianni talked about Flowers. Nobody. Nobody. That's the number one reason why the Eagles will be competitive in this game. The number two reason is the Bucs are the walking wounded. Chris Godwin out for the year. Antonio Brown, he had a pretty good game against the Eagles the first time around. He's not on the team anymore. They have numerous injuries in their secondary. And I don't know about you guys, but Mike Evans doesn't look healthy. They keep trying to tell us that he's fine, but he did not look healthy on Sunday in that game. Brady is out there playing with a banged up team. And you got to wonder, can the Eagles take advantage of them? Can the Eagles make the Bucs earn their money on Sunday? Now, some of that comes down to Jonathan Gannon actually doing his job, but I think there's a legitimate chance for the Eagles to not just show that they belong in this game, but to scare the Bucs and potentially beat them. Remember, this is the same Tampa team that last postseason in the first round faced another NFC East team and had to go down to the wire with them, that being the Washington football team with Taylor Heineke. This Eagles offense is way more dangerous than last year's Washington football team offense that Tampa faced. So this is not just it's a participation trophy situation. No, the Eagles are a legitimate threat. If I'm Tampa, I better have an answer for that rushing attack, or it's going to be the fourth quarter with 5 minutes to go, and you're going to be in a nail biter, and Brady's going to have to run you back and win the game at the end of the game. Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. We are live on YouTube at 97.3 ESPN. Of course, you can DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Thanks to First Bank of Seattle City. Text board is open as well. 609-403-0973 is the text board. 609-403-0973. And we are also can take comments on YouTube at 973 ESPN. We'll dig deeper into the Eagles coming up at 10 minutes from now at 6:20 with Chris Franklin from NJ.com, one of their Eagles beat writers. I did want to hit on the NFL carousel because there is something that happened today that showed me how out of touch certain teams around this league are, how stupid some of these organizations are. You want to know why the Eagles have made the postseason among the most in the NFL over the last several years? You want to know why the Philadelphia Eagles are a team that has had stability and has had a chance to make the postseason year in and year out? It's because they're not stupid like the Dolphins and the Vikings. When Brian Flores was fired this morning, it was brought up multiple times that there was a disconnect and a dysfunctionality between Flores and the GM, Chris Grier. Chris Grier is now gone through multiple head coaches as a GM, and he has nothing to show for it in playoff success. The owner of the Dolphins chose a lukewarm average to below average GM over a leader of men who the players in the locker room are not happy that he is not there, to the point where there's reports out there that Deshaun Watson doesn't want to go to Miami anymore because Brian Flores isn't there. The complete opposite side of the equation is Minnesota. Minnesota fires their GM and their head coach, Mike Zimmer. And Eric Hendricks comes out to the media today and talked about that you can't run an organization through fear. I'm sorry, what? So Zimmer, apparently, according to reports and different players, was basically a tyrant in Minnesota. He kept his job for almost a decade. Brian Flores was loved by his players. He gets run out of town. You want to know why the Minnesota Vikings have had limited success and why the Dolphins have had almost no playoff success, and why the Eagles are in the postseason again this year, despite having their third coach in the last decade? Because the Dolphins and the Vikings are imbeciles. They are absolutely clueless about what is going on. You cannot have a coach who is basically being kicked while he's down as he's fired by his former players in Minnesota. We saw this here in Philadelphia. After Chip Kelly was let go, everyone basically said almost in unison, good riddance. We didn't like him anyway. Jeffrey Lurie only let Chip Kelly stay in power for 3 years. Mike Zimmer was almost in Minnesota for a decade, and the players apparently didn't like him. I mean, that's a bad sign. And you got rid of the GM. You got to bring in a guy who's going to fix the organization. If I'm Minnesota, the first guy I call is Brian Flores. And I ask Flores, listen, it's obvious the players in Miami liked you. What's a GM that you can work with? Because apparently, according to reports, Brian Flores, you and Chris Greer couldn't get along. Well, I'm more concerned about my players than I am about my GM. So give me a list of guys who you would be interested in working with. That's what I would do if I was Minnesota. Now, I don't know if they will do that because apparently the owner of the Vikings is a tone-deaf imbecile because he let Mike Zimmer be there for so long. And if I'm Stephen Ross in Miami, first of all, I mean, you can talk all you want, but you sound dumb. I saw part of his press conference this morning, and all I kept thinking is, how did this guy become a billionaire? Because he's obviously a bad communicator. He's obviously a poor judge of people, and he's a poor judge of management. How did this guy become such a filthy rich guy if he's this dense? Of course, the rest of the NFL, I mean, let's be realistic. The two best jobs at this point are Chicago and Jacksonville because they both have young quarterbacks. They both have talent on their rosters. They both have cap space and draft picks to work with. If I'm a coaching candidate, I'm leaning toward Jacksonville or Chicago right now. Now, part of the issue with Jacksonville is they still have an incumbent GM. Chicago, they're going to bring in a new GM like Minnesota. Obviously, whoever they hire as GM is going to impact some of those jobs. I would love to see the full list of candidates when we get through the process. Because you look at some of the names being thrown out there. Leslie Frazier of the Bills. Doug Peterson, the former Eagles coach. Byron Leftwich, the OC of the Bucs. There's a lot of interesting names out there. Okay, Nathaniel Hackett, the offensive coordinator with the Packers. The Broncos are a good situation too because I think their GM is very underrated. There's a lot of speculation that Patton was actually the brains behind Rick Spielman in Minnesota when it came to a lot of those draft picks that panned out. So you have to wonder, if you're a coach and you're looking at Denver and you're looking at Chicago, looking at Jacksonville, if those are more appealing than looking at the organizations in Minnesota and Miami and seeing how tone deaf and how dumb they are. We'll get more into the Eagles coming up on the other side with NJ.com's beat writer for the Eagles, Chris Franklin, right here on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. And we are live on YouTube at 97.3 ESPN. I'm Josh Hennig, and this is Game Night.
This is the radio home for Eagles playoff football. It's the NFC Wild Card Round this Sunday with the Eagles in Tampa to face Brady and the Bucs.
Brady back. He lets it go. He is going deep, and it is intercepted. And it is picked off by Harris.
Pre-game coverage begins at noon. Merrill and Mike have the call starting at 1. This is where Eagles playoff football happens. 97.3 ESPN, South Jersey's Eagles station.
Matt Flat Nissan is now open on the Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township, next to Home Depot. Get out of that old car, truck, or SUV and into a brand new Nissan. The all-new Matt Flat Nissan on the Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township, or visit us online, mattflatnissan.com.
Why does Walgreens offer copays as low as $0 and 90-day refills? Because we care about Medicare.
Why would someone looking for a mortgage at the Jersey Shore take a loan from a company in Detroit or North Carolina or some other far-off place? Online mortgages promise a lot but don't always deliver. First Bank of Sea Isle City knows the Jersey Shore. We are local lenders. We use local appraisers and provide in-house processing. We understand the unique obstacles of financing in Cape May County. Don't take a chance. Local banking is better. Let us guide you. First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Game Night is always being brought to you by my friends over at the FanDuel Sportsbook inside Bally's Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City. Bet all the NFL playoff action all month long at the state-of-the-art FanDuel Sportsbook just off the boardwalk at Bally's, Atlantic City. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Let's get more into the Eagles. The state of the team as they head into the postseason. Right now, joining us on the phone line, Chris Franklin covers the Philadelphia Eagles for NJ.com, as the Eagles will be traveling to Tampa for round 2 with Tom Brady and the Bucs this Sunday. Chris, how you doing today?
Not bad, man. It's winter time. It's fun. It's fun, and it's playoff week, so I'm looking forward to it. How about yourself?
Well, I am not doing as well as you because you're going to Florida this weekend. So, you can enjoy the winter for a few days. And then you got to make sure you have some lighter clothes to wear. Let's say when you land in Florida for the game.
I'll tell you, it's crazy, but I actually kind of like this cold weather. I can deal with it. It's fine. Now, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't mind a couple days down in Florida. I'll definitely be looking forward to that. But come on, bring on the 15, 10. Hey, why not go 5?
Listen, I think you and I talked about this before. I don't mind the cold weather. I just don't like when it snow and ices and then nobody plows the street. Nobody puts salt on the highways. Like, at least allow us to have a chance to survive.
Well, that's when you do your Claude Giroux impression. You start skating around down the streets and then hopefully actually score a goal. That's it.
Listen, man, there's a reason why I never played ice hockey. All right. I think I think that's just what it is. But all right, let's get to the Eagles here. But before we get to the details, before I brought you on, I want to ask you about this because to me, as someone who's absorbing all the information and everything that's going on, it seems like that, you look what happened with Miami firing Flores. So all the players are upset. And how Mike Zimmer gets fired in Minnesota, and then Eric Hendricks comes out and basically just throws Zimmer under the bus multiple times. Like, it seems like you have two organizations that are completely run by imbeciles who have no idea what it takes to win. And you just have the Eagles up here going to another postseason with the third different head coach in the last decade. And it's like, I think Eagle fans should be grateful today, considering when you look around the rest of the league of how stupid some of these other organizations are.
Well, that's where I think culture comes in. And when you look and you see like the Miami, for the life of me, I still don't know why Brian Flores was fired. I know they're going to point to the record and not having success, but he made the most of what he had. But when you look at the Eagles, you have to look at culture. You have to look at the surrounding elements when it comes to the front office, when it comes to the assistant coach, to the regular coaches, to the players, and everybody seems to be on the same page for the most part. When you go back even 3, 4, 5 coaches, and I think that's what is important when it comes to Jeffrey Lurie. When you look at the job he's done in helping find the right guys to lead the team, and that's why you see teams like the Giants, you see teams like Minnesota and all these middling teams that may peak for about a year or two, but then they go back down. And if you're an Eagles fan, I myself included, I know that I've given Howie Roseman, I've ridden him a little bit when it comes to some of his decisions, but sometimes you got to have a guy like that in place in order to make the right ones and have success in this league.
Yeah, and listen, it's not that Howie Roseman or Jeffrey Lurie gets everything right. You know what I mean? And I think there's still an argument to be made that the whole Peterson end of era was mishandled by the entire organization. But you know what, Chris? At some point, I think that, I just look at the Eagles and I say, you know what, Eagle fans, you're not the Dolphins, you're not the Vikings, you're not the Jets, you're not the Giants. Like, you going in the list, there's a lot of messed up teams in this league. And if I'm a head coaching candidate, I look at some of these job openings, Chris, I don't even know if I want some of them.
Like, we're not the Eagles aren't the Texans too? No, I was kidding. No. Like, they should be lucky because a lot of times you're looking at some of these things and, like, I mean, David Culley is looking at possibly being let go. I mean, the rumors about Josh McDaniels possibly going down there too. Like, there's something to be said about stability and the long-term stuff. And I think the Eagles, like, I agree with you. I for one was one of the people who thought Doug should have had at least one more year to at least have a chance to right this ship. And you see now that even if you brought Carson Wentz back, it may have not ended the way that the Eagles wanted to. But they found a guy, Nick Sirianni, who connects with his players, a guy who is amenable to the game plans that he wants to put offensively. When you look at his team, they were running a lot of 11 personnel, a lot of 4 wide, 5 wides, and then the change to this run-first team that leads the league in rushing offense. You got to look at that as well, too, and say, hey, you know what? You got a guy who can change the outlook and the game plan, willing to be open to making change. I think you have to have at least a front office that has to allow a coach to be able to do that. So you got to give a lot of credit to everybody in that organization for that.
Well, speaking of giving credit, I mean, I think we all also, there's no Eagles game yesterday. So if you were someone like me who had Red Zone on, you got to see almost the entire Colts-Jags game. And I mean, just the complete collapse of that team. And basically they told Carson Wentz, go win the game for us. And he was absolutely unable to. And I think you look at the Eagles, you got to give them credit for that too.
Yeah, and I'm starting to wonder, this is pure speculation, I don't have any inside information on this, but I'm starting to wonder if the injuries are starting to mount for him. And he doesn't look like the same Carson that we saw after the ACL injury. You see, when you take a lot of sacks like he did last year, you take a lot of hits, and over time, it starts to wear on your body. I'm wondering if it started to wear his body a lot. And the Eagles did a good job, at least finding something of value to get back from him, especially with that conditional second, which turned to a first now. So not only do you have that pick, not only do you get the pick you made from the trade with the Miami Dolphins, those back-to-back, literally for like about 20 minutes, if the Eagles wanted to, they basically have a commercial during the draft saying, hey, you know what, we have all these guys here. And you have a third pick, which is your own, which they can do something with as well, too. So they're set up pretty good for the future.
Chris Franklin from NJ.com joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, you can also follow him on Twitter at CFranklinNews as the Eagles are preparing to play the Bucs for round 2, Chris. And listen, this isn't the same Eagles team, and this is not the same Bucs team that we saw earlier this year. So I would argue, Chris, that this game, you can't take the first game as a true definition of what this game is.
Not at all. I mean, just if you look at Antonio Brown, I think had 13 catches in that first game. Well, he's gone. You had Chris Godwin, who is a speed threat, who is a number 1 caliber receiver. Well, he tore his ACL. He's not going to play. So the Bucs' offensive philosophy may go from, okay, we're going to throw it deep down the field and pressure you that way, to more crossing routes, more horizontal routes with Rob Gronkowski, Cameron Brate, and O.J. Howard. And, we still got to see if we got Leonard Fournette. He's healthy. Ronald Jones, if he's healthy, you're still feeling good. So it's a completely different look. And the onus now falls on Tom Brady, I think, a little bit more, because beforehand he had all those weapons. And I know they're saying a lot, saying onus on Tom Brady. Wow, he's just only the best quarterback to ever play the game. But he's getting older. You still have to wonder. It's going to be another test to see if he can will basically lead that offense by himself. And Gronk's still there, but he's not the Gronk of the New England Patriots. Still a very, very good player, but he's not that caliber. So it's going to be a pretty a closer game than I think a lot of people think.
Chris, I think the biggest key is the run game, because the Eagles' backup offensive line basically tried to put the Cowboys' defensive line's faces in the dirt on Saturday night. And we haven't seen a team stop this Eagles run game since Nick Sirianni talked about Flowers. So, there is something to be said with the fact that this team is on a roll, and we haven't seen anyone stop the run game yet.
I'm still waiting for the T-shirt to pop up this week. Hey, like a haha, I told you so T-shirt with the flowers. That'd be great. But when you look at this defense, the Bucs defense, it's really tough to run in the middle of the field. I think I saw a stat somewhere where they're basically trying to run anywhere in the A gap. So either side of the center, they're only allowing 2.3 yards to carry. But they can be run on, especially around that left edge. They think they gave up like 7.1 yards a carry this season. And one of your strengths is that offensive line. So you basically have about like almost nearly 700 pounds in between with Jordan Mailata and Landon Dickerson. And you can run behind them. And it could be Miles Sanders if he comes back. If it's Jordan Howard, Boston Scott, Gainwell, you can get on the outside with that speed that they have and seal off the edge. You can pick up some yards. And I think the Eagles cannot veer from what's worked so well this season. It's gotten this far. And also it keeps Tom Brady on the sideline a bit more if you're playing a time possession game, limiting the amount of possessions he gets. So the run game is going to have to be effective in this game.
I know a lot of people have had a lot of consternation this year about Jonathan Gannon because sometimes he doesn't, the fans say he may not blitz enough. Someone like me criticizes him for playing passive zone defense at times. Everyone's been a critic of him at some point this year. Is Jonathan Gannon and his defense equipped to slow down Tom Brady?
I think in the middle they are, especially when it comes to Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave. I think that he's equipped in that aspect. I'm a little worried when it comes to the second level. Now, I think when it comes to linebackers, I think they've done a lot better than what we see at the beginning of the year. But if you have a sense where they run that Tampa 2 defense and you have to have either TJ Edwards or Alex Singleton run about 10, 15 yards and control and play that zone area in the middle of the field, I feel a little worried about that. But I think on the outside, the secondary, I think they're a little bit better as well, too. So I'm more worried about the intermediate route. But I think that Jonathan Gannon, he must be doing something right because I think I saw right before you get on there. I mean, the Broncos are looking to bring him in for an interview now, which is, I know he's a bright mind. He can devise a lot of things. I personally think that in next year, I really want to see if he remains here. I really want to see what he does because I think that if he gets his guys in here, whether it be a linebacker, who knows, maybe they actually pick a linebacker in the first round, and it's two good guys that are out there. If you do that, and you add a couple other pieces around there, I think this defense can jump to a next level, potentially be like a top 8, top 7, but they have to get the right pieces in there. So as for this year, they can impact Brady, but to be dominant against him, I don't think they can do that.
Well, here's the thing with Gannon, and I'm not trying to belittle the guy, but there's a part of me that wonders: is he really a great? Is he a great football mind or is he a great defensive mind? Because those are not 100% one and the same. He might be a guy who interviews very well. He might be a great coach one day. You know what I mean? He might be a guy that, is a great CEO of a team. I'm just not 100% sure he's a great defensive play caller. And I think that he doesn't make some of the right decisions at times. And I think that, maybe that intelligence that he has just might not translate as a coordinator, considering, as a guy who's calling plays for the first time as a D coordinator at this level, I can't say I'm that impressed.
I think he does have a good defensive mind, and I think he's a good defensive coordinator. I think a lot of that is he's trying to grow into that role, and similar to what Nick Sirianni had to do and be open to adjusting. I think he's done that a lot too, playing a lot more man than a lot of zone that he wanted to do as well. So, and his schemes, I think. And then going back to not having his players, I think he comes from that Zimmer's philosophy of he wants to get pressure in the A gaps and then try to disguise a lot of guys. I just don't know if he has a lot of those guys to do that as of right now. But when he actually does do some of those Zimmer-esque things like blitz up the A gaps, they have success. Singleton does very good rushing up the middle of the field and creating havoc. When he does blitz those middles, he doesn't do it as much. I think he'd rather go down giving up field goals instead of giving up the big plays and getting into shootouts. But I like to see him be a little bit more aggressive, but I really think that if he gets the guys he wants to for year 2, I think you'll see his defense improve.
Not trying to look too far ahead, but I am curious because, we did have a conversation this weekend about, because, we knew the Eagles game wasn't going to be exactly some great thing. So we talked about the offseason. If Gannon was to get hired for a job, because we saw what happened to Brandon Staley last year, right? Brandon Staley was basically with the Rams for a year and change, and then he was swooped up and went to the Chargers. If Gannon does leave, is that an opportunity for Sirianni to bring in a more veteran D coordinator type of guy, maybe like a Vic Fangio or something?
Yeah, see, Vanville was the first line, but I don't know if they're going to run a lot of 3-4-ish. I personally would go to the guy who mentored John Gannon and go to Zimmer. I think he's a better defensive coordinator than he is a head coach. And I think he still has I think when we're talking about defensive minds, I think he has a brilliant defensive mind and can do a lot more, a little bit disguising as well, too. And he can be that fallback earpiece that he has. I mean, Sirianni has people that he trusts. He says he has people he trusts that he can bounce ideas off. One of them, I believe, is Frank Reich and some other coaches that he has. So I truly believe, like, if that's the case, Zimmer might be one of the first calls if I'm Sirianni I'm making to see if he have any interest in becoming a defensive coordinator. But to me, looking at everything else, I think Dan Quinn would have to be off the board first, and then probably Flores too before Gannon gets a job.
Chris Franklin from NJ.com joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN at C Franklin News on Twitter. Chris, the other thing with the Eagles heading into this game is obviously Brady is a part of the conversation. Well, so is Jalen Hurts. In my opinion, I think Jalen Hurts has grown a lot from when we first saw him on the field last year versus the Packers to what he has been this year. Is there a specific element of his growth or his evolution as a quarterback that has impressed you or stood out to you the most?
Oh, yeah, his presence in the pocket. I think that it used to me, especially in those last 4 games, it used to you go one quick read, go to a second one maybe, and then run around and try to make a play there. But you saw in the last couple of games that he's played, he's climbing the pocket, he's staying in there a little bit more, and he's making a couple of good reads when it comes there. Would I like to see him control the ball with 2 hands and not almost do like he's carrying a basketball, like going toward the hoop? Yeah, I'd like to see him protect the ball a little bit more that way. But I think overall, when you look at not just that, he's passing, his anticipation is getting a little bit better. It's not there where he's among the top 10 quarterbacks in the league to do that. But you see elements of his game in the pocket now that has really, really started to take off with this passing attack. And you don't want to say an injury is a blessing or anything else like that, but that may have been a blessing in disguise because it forced him not to run out as much, and it forced him to rely on that pocket at offensive line. And we know that this offensive line can give you time, and they will develop set up a good pocket to throw from. So he's staying there, he's being patient, just needs to work on his anticipation a little bit even more, and just going from there. But you see a big improvement from last year in that part.
Why haven't we talked more about the fact that Jalen Hurts is in his 4th offense in 4 years and that this guy has not had a chance to really develop in any offense? He went from Bama to Lincoln Riley's Oklahoma to Doug Peterson to now Sirianni.
His lexicon has to be so big, hearing so much. I think the big things, especially to me, it's impressive. I was just looking at playbook stuff, is to get the terminology of everybody's down. Because not everybody's routes are called the same, not everybody's checkdowns are called the same. So you're working that through your mind. Then you're working through all different things like, hey, okay, if somebody has a post, this was the look I'm supposed to look at this way. Well, no, this offense is that way. There's so much jumbled up in there and learning. And then, yeah, he's the son of a coach's kid too, so he's used to it. But a lot of that stuff, the fact that he's able to decipher and take in all that stuff and still be able to perform in the second year, I think it'll be good. And if he's in this offense again, is given a chance to get this offense again, I think you'll see that you excel even more. So the more and more comfortable, especially when the more and more comfortable you feel with getting a playbook and you know the routes in the second hand and you just go recite them within your sleep and not worry about it. And then that helps with the anticipation of the routes. That helps with your check downs even more. And you're totally in sync when it comes to that offense. So the more and more he gets used to this, I think you'll see even the playbook expand even more, because there's some packages that we've seen in practice they haven't used a lot in games as much. So I wouldn't be surprised if once he gets all that stuff down, the playbook opens up even more. And Sirianni, Shane Steichen, and Brian Johnson, they've done a good job getting him prepared for that too. And also Marty Morningwick, don't forget him too, because he spent a lot of time with him last year to try to get him ready to the NFL game.
He is Chris Franklin. You can follow him on Twitter at C Franklin News, covers the Eagles as well as the Sixers for NJ.com. And of course, you can catch him and Mike K on the No Huddle Pod. Of course, you can check that out. And I want to remind people, with podcasts now, you can rate them now on Spotify. So the rating is not just on Apple now, it's on Spotify as well. So Just keep that in mind, folks. You're listening to a podcast. Chris, appreciate you jumping on today, and enjoy your trip to Florida, my friend.
Thank you very much. I'll make sure to send a picture of the beautiful sunsets. Hopefully to bring some warm weather back up.
I think it's 10 more weeks till spring.
Yeah, Groundhog better not be wrong this time. him and Gus need to go somewhere if that doesn't happen. Well.
Chris, take care, my man.
You too now.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. We'll get your thoughts and comments on the text board at 609-403-0973. We're on YouTube at 973 ESPN, and we'll preview the College Football National Championship game on the other side right here on 97.3. Josh Hennig here on Game Night.
The College Football National Championship, presented by AT&T. The top-ranked Alabama Crimson Tide look to repeat as national champions when they face Kirby Smart's third-ranked Georgia Bulldogs. Coverage begins today at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN. It's the NCAA National Championship game, exclusively on 97.3 ESPN FM. South Jersey's home for the College Football National Championship game.
Your one-stop for beer, wine, and liquor is Byright Wine and Liquors of Hamilton, Williamstown, and West Deptford. All your favorite local craft beers in one place and a huge selection of wine and spirits at great prices. Visit them online to see what's on sale. Run out of beer during the game? Don't miss a single play. Byright has free delivery when you order online or download their app. Byright Hamilton, Blueberry Crossing, Whitehorse Pike. Byright Williamstown, Route 42, Black Horse Pike. And Byright West Deptford on Route 45.
Matt Black Kia has a solution to your New Year's resolution. Don't drive around in a car you hate. Trade it in for something great. So bring us any trade, no matter the make, no matter the mileage, no matter the condition, and put zero down. Pay zero interest for 60 months or make no payments for 90 days. If you're currently stuck in a loan or lease, Matt Black Kia can get you released. Choose from the largest selection of certified pre-owned Kias. So why make a resolution you can't keep? Trade in your old Heat and drive away in a new Kia with zero down and zero interest for 60 months on every 2022 Kia Stinger, or make no payments until next year.
It's gotta be a Matt Black Kia.
Offers with approved Tier 1 or 2 credit through Kia Motors Finance. Not all will qualify. 0% based on 1667 per 1,000 borrowed. Negative equity financed into new loan. Excludes taxes, title, license. Offers don't combine. Call 877-289-6670 or go to mattblackkianj.com for complete details. Expires 2/6/2022. Matt Black Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and now on Route 37 in Toms River.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Game Night being brought to you by my friends over at the FanDuel Sportsbook inside Bally's Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City. Bet all the football action all month long in the state-of-the-art FanDuel Sportsbook off the boardwalk at Bally's Atlantic City. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. I'll get to the college football in just a minute. College football national championship coming up. Pre-game coverage begins in 10 minutes right here on 97.3 ESPN. Couple messages came in here over on the text board at 609-403-0973. Texter says they need to hit on those picks to the Eagles. Kyle Hamilton to Kobe Dean, let's go, with exclamation points on there. First of all, I don't think Kyle Hamilton is going to make it outside of the top 10. In my opinion, I think one of two things happens. Either the Eagles use one of their 3 picks to trade up to get someone like a Kyle Hamilton, or they will stay put at 2 of the 3 picks in the mid to late first round and get a guy like the Kobe Dean. It's funny you mentioned the Kobe Dean because he is one of the guys we named in our article over at 97.3 ESPN.com as a guy to watch for, saying who the Eagles could target. He's the considered the best linebacker in the country, the 2021 Bucs Award winner. He also won the 2018 high school Bucs Award winner. So he has won the award at 2 different levels as the best linebacker in the country. He is extremely intelligent. He is a phenomenal athlete. He can do all kinds of things. I would love to see the Eagles grab a Nakobe Dean. I think it depends, though, on who the defensive coordinator is. I think if Jonathan Gannon is still here, or if they hired someone to replace him who values linebackers, I think that maybe Howie Roseman in the front office, like Andy Weidel, who is in charge of, the personnel and scouting and everything, will consider going out and getting a linebacker. The problem with Kyle Hamilton of Notre Dame is that I think he's a linebacker in the NFL. I don't think he's a safety. So, in my opinion, if you're drafting him, I'm assuming you're drafting him to be a part of your linebacking core. I don't know at this point if he is a true safety in the NFL. Safety in the NFL has to also, typically, they have to play other positions, such as, nickel at times. They got to cover tight ends. They got to cover wide receivers at times. I don't know if Hamilton is as fluid and as good of a pass coverage guy in that role, whereas I think Nakobe Dean is a better pass coverage guy when it comes to linebackers and running backs. I think Hamilton can cover tight ends good, but not great. And I think he might be a better linebacker, honestly. I don't know if he can handle wide receivers in the open field. So, speaking of the national championship game, listen, I think this is going to be a much closer game than people realize. I think that if Bama wins again, it's going to be much closer. And I think that the over-under in this game is a little too high. 52.5 is suggesting that this is going to be like a 35 to 24 or a 28-24 kind of game. And while it could be that, I don't know if it's going to be that high scoring. I think both teams are going to be much more prepared than they were last time. So I'm assuming this is going to be a 24-20, 28-20, 27-24 kind of game. I think it's going to be a very close, a very exciting game. You can hear it right here coming up on the other side right here on 97.3 ESPN. Personally, how can you pick against Bama? I just don't think you can at this point. There's a part of you that wants Georgia to win because you want to see Bama lose. There's another part of you that says, how can you pick against Saban in the biggest game of the year? So, thanks again to Chris Franklin for joining us talking some Eagles today. Hope everyone had a great day out there. I know it's freezing cold outside. Hope you're staying warm. We'll be back on the air tomorrow after following Mike Gill and the Busy Sports Bash Tuesday right here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Mike Gill at 2 p.m. I'll be on at 6 p.m. tomorrow. We will be talking all week about the NFL because with the coaching carousel, with the playoffs around the corner, we got a lot to get to this week. Keep it tuned right here at 97.3 ESPN. I'll catch you tomorrow.